NetSparker, the developers of desktop and cloud-based web application security scanners that enable you to automatically identify vulnerabilities in your web applications and web services. NetSparker scanners employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities with their proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at netsparker.com or email at contact@netsparker.com. LogRhythm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logRhythm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. IT Pro TV, an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. Stream over 2,000 hours of up-to-date, high-quality video content live and on demand. Premium annual memberships include all video content as well as access to virtual labs and the Q&A forums. You'd pay $85.70 a month or $857 per year, but we have a special offer for our listeners. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your active subscription, visit itpro.tv/securityweekly and use the discount code SW30. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly, the security news edition for this week. First, check out Wild West Hackin Fest, put on by Black Hills Information Security, held on October 27th through the 28th. Hands-on hardware hacking talks by myself, Larry Pesce, Jeff Mann, Joff Thayer, Jack, and Doug. Are you guys going to be there? No. Maybe. No. Doug. Hopefully we get Doug out there. You can visit Wild West Hackin Fest, HACKINfest.com, and learn more. And maybe even buy tickets, though I'm not sure. I think we're sold out, so I'm not sure. I got to
book my flights and stuff out there.
You should do that. Yeah, you should have done that already, but it's okay.
I know.
You can
been lazy. I've been busy.
You can ride in my carry-on. It's fine.
Wait, do you have to pick me up like a bowling ball for that to happen?
Could be.
Oh,
We'll see. We'll see. We should get you next. We should hold hands on the plane. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
No, wait. If you carry me on the plane, am I considered a carry on?
Maybe. Somehow, I think TSA would frown upon that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I want to go through that little scanner that they put the bags through.
Yeah.
Sir, are you smuggling any liquids in here? No liquids, just a gel.
You just sit in your lap for the whole flight.
That's all right. That's good. We'll work on that. Yep. I've been working on a new firewall.
Yeah.
So Larry happened to, before we get into the news, Larry happened to mention OPNsense or OPNsense.
Yep. Which is a
fork
of PFSense, or a rebuild of PFSense in that style.
It's that traditional, I call it traditional now, kind of thing where the open source project is forked because of, reasons.
Yeah, some of those being commercial. Yeah, some of those being commercial.
And disagreements between the team. And don't get me wrong, I don't fault anyone. I don't think there's a good guy or a bad guy. I think it's one of the wonders of open source that projects can fork like that, giving users more choice.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with PFSense, nothing wrong with OPNsense.
Yep.
It just gives people more options. I think that's totally fine. I'm like 24 hours or so into OPNsense.
Nice.
Or so, maybe closer to 48. But so here's one of my issues with PFSense, and I think it's totally fine. They're focused on selling some of their hardware. I appreciate their business. I think they make a great product. Their newer hardware is really highly fine-tuned. It kind of reminds me of Pony Express in a way, where you could build it yourself. There's other open source options, but there's a commercial company behind, like a Pony Express, that puts together the hardware that's specifically tuned to what it's needing to do. I don't know if you guys are using Pony Express devices in your pen test team. I know John was using them for a while as well. Then they've also expanded out into the enterprise, right? And that's the benefit you get from a commercial product.
Yep.
Now,
I use some of the enterprise stuff at home, and it's actually kind of shocking. I get alerts from it every once in a while, and I'm like, what the? Oh, that's right. I did do that.
Yeah. No, and it's awesome. And PFSense, I think, has a similar type model where you can basically buy firewall hardware from them that's specifically tuned for PFSense. And I'm sure it's awesome. I've looked at the specs on it. The prices aren't actually that bad at all. I think if you're using it specifically for encryption and VPN type stuff, you're going to want to seriously consider that for sure. However, they, being a commercial company, they have to make decisions much like the smallest and the largest, like Microsoft software companies that have to make is they're like, we're not supporting the J1900 Celeron Intel processor anymore. I don't fault them for that. What I like about it is they came out and said it. They were like, look, in future releases, man, we're not supporting this.
Yep.
I thought that was awesome for people to make decisions about it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we push a lot of bandwidth, but in retrospect, it's not a lot of bandwidth.
Right.
It's
a lot of bandwidth, but it's not a lot of horsepower behind it because you're not doing.
But there's also, there's like 4 or 5 people here in the office, so it is not a lot of bandwidth. But
there's not a lot of consumption, but there's not a lot of activity that happens against that consumption to consume that processing.
Very, very well put, Larry. So what I decided to do is I had a J1900 processor type. It's actually the same one that Logarithm talked about when they came on the show.
Yep. And I believe that's also the same processor in the box that I talked about that I built for my PFSense stuff.
Yeah. So I had one of these boxes, and I thought I'd give it a whirl. And I do it in production. If I'm going to do it, I do it in production. But what happened was interesting. I tried PFSense on this particular hardware to start with, and for whatever reason, the BIOS just would not boot it. And I don't know if it was something I did in the initial install. I went through all the BIOS settings. I was Google searching it, and it would just like boot up. I tell it to boot the PFSense kernel. And it would just blank screen, nothing on the screen, no error for me to Google, right? And it would just go back to the BIOS reboot and do the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, well, here's the situation. PFSense has said, look, we're not going to support this processor anymore, and that's fine. I get the decision. But OPNsense is a fork of the project. And I haven't confirmed this with the project. I'm sure. Hopefully we'll get feedback with people that can. I think they have a better shot of saying we're going to support this processor. I don't want to if I need a VPN endpoint, I'll find some other system to spin up a VPN endpoint. I want the firewall to do just firewalling, right? Yep. Like I said, it's not like we push a lot of. However, we'll have multiple Skype calls and a live stream. I need the firewall to push packets. I don't want to disrupt that with any kind of VPN endpointing or any other kind of encryption. I want the thing to push packets.
Yep.
And I want to spend $1,000 on something to just push packets, right? This thing's a couple $100. Right? A couple $100 to buy the J1900 4-core processor. And so I put OPNsense on it.
Yep. Now for me, PFSense works because I do the VPN endpoint on my firewall. But it's typically just for like protecting myself at conferences or
just
getting access to some of my internal resources or something of the like where it's IP restricted based on my home IP.
And I get it. PFSense wants to appeal to the enterprise more, and that's fine. So I did OPNsense. It installed, it booted on my particular hardware. The web interface was really super easy to use. It's got FreeBSD. I can drop into a shell and run all the tools locally on the command line. It has all the features that I needed, right? I needed basic routing, basic firewalling. I needed something that supported 75 up, 75 down, and it has 4 interfaces on it. So what I started to do,
if you don't want to check it in production, throw it in a virtual machine.
Yeah, you did that.
I did that and fired it up, and damn, this is nice looking.
So I did it in production, and I have to say I moved some stuff over to it. Right now it's pretty complex setup, but I'm basically migrating everything over to this fire. So I hung the wireless network off of it. I moved some critical systems like Skype and streaming over to it to use our new internet connection. And dude, the thing isn't breathing hard at all. I mean, at most the CPU's at 10%. I'm using 2% of the RAM on the system. I was able to configure all the routing, the DNS forwarding. I'm using DHCP on it right now until I can offload that into something else. It was super easy. I mean, there were some weird things that I was like, oh, I got to go, like enabling SSH and writing the firewall. But now, granted, I've got experience doing all of that.
Yeah, how long have you been using PFSense for? And a change is always a change.
Yeah, I don't like to think about how long I've been doing IT, as Jack and Doug can probably attest.
I've built a lot of firewalls, both with like what you're doing with servers that are left over, built them from bare metal, ground up kind of things. I think the reason they sell, right now, the firewall that we support is ASA, so it's like, total hardware, super expensive kind of thing. I think a lot of companies, we took open source firewalls that were sort of home rolled like that and proposed that they build those. And a lot of times they were resistant to it because they didn't have a Paul or a Larry on staff who felt comfortable with this equipment that was supported. And you'll see companies like PFSense and others and Cisco using high availability as a sort of buzzword. And the reason they do that is because that's just a sales pitch, is that this is the difference in building your own vehicle and going down and buying one from Toyota. And
what I like, Doug, is I love your suggestion, though, because what's interesting is Verizon got here. It was like, oh, I'm here to put your internet in today. And I'm like, I haven't really built a firewall yet, right? Because I was like coaching Sam. I'm like, look, we want a static IP and we want an Ethernet handoff. And she's like, what? So I had to explain that. We want an Ethernet and we want a static IP, and we want 75 up and 75 down. And I'm like, we don't want anything else. I don't need phone or TV. I just want another internet connection. And I'm like, I don't want any hardware from them. I'm going to do the firewall myself. Verizon guy gets here in the morning, and I'm like, I haven't configured my firewall yet. And he's like, well, I got to, they got to do a bunch of stuff, right? They got to run a cable. They got to install the AONT. Had to go out on the pole down the street and do some stuff. I'm like, great. And in like less than an hour, I've got OPNsense installed. It's running. I've got the static IP. I plugged it in.
Yeah, WAN set to DHCP.
No, we're static.
Oh, that's right, static. Yeah.
So I set the static, and the only weird thing was instead of choosing the default duplex negotiation, I chose auto select. Apparently, it likes to just be default, which it says, this is the default, and we typically use auto select. If I set it to auto select, it wouldn't negotiate the duplex with the ONT.
Jeez.
And so once I fixed that, everything, like, all of a sudden I was like, I can get out to the internet now. This is great. And everything worked just fine. I've tweaked it. I've added. I'm using all 4 Ethernets on it now. And I'm super happy.
Yep.
So to our listeners, this box that, and I'll look it up as the show goes on, but this box that, what is this called there? Do you remember?
I have it in my Amazon wish list, and I'm not logged into Amazon on this machine.
It's somewhere.
It's a micro ITX based PC of some variety.
It's what there's a name for the. They make a couple different models. This one has Wi-Fi. I'm not using the Wi-Fi.
While you're looking for that real quick,
I
had a similar experience with our Verizon guy many years ago when he came and installed our stuff. He's like, I got to put this Action Tech router here. And I'm like, no. This is a business connection. I do my own firewall.
Oh, it's a QOTOM. QOTOM.
Yes. QOTOM, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm like, no. He's like, but I need to have this Action Tech router in because it does Mocha. And I'm like, well, what's Mocha? He says that's what gets all the display on your set-top boxes, because this is at home, as well as does all of the streaming from Verizon if you want to do any streaming. So it does all the data transfers to your set-top boxes. I'm like, well, I don't do any streaming yet, but I definitely want the program information so we can record shows and get all that stuff. So he's like, well, I got to go out to the pole and stuff, so... Yeah, all right. I'm like, great. I'll figure this out. You leave me the box, and I'll set it up. And he's like, can you show me how you did it? He's like, because he'd come out of TCP/IP school like a week earlier. Yeah. And
some of those people know very little about network, which is kind of scary. You're here installing my internet, and you know very little.
And FiOS was actually fairly new in the state at the time, so it was totally understandable. But I threw my firewall up, and it was PFSense, and had all that stuff working, and then plugged the WAN of that into the network. And he's like, I got to set that for a static IP. I'm like, no. That IP is over here. Set the WAN to DHCP. And he's like, no, I have to set it. I'm like, you wanted to learn this stuff. Listen to me. Set it to DHCP. And it got a DHCP address. And he's like, but this isn't the right one. I'm like, just wait. Can you get to the internet? Yeah. Oh, I see the Mocha information coming in. I'm like, Want to know how it works? So, of course, the only thing I had to display, the house was literally still under construction at the time. The only thing I had to show him was a Sharpie marker and a sheet of plywood. So I drew a network diagram on the sheet of plywood.
That's awesome.
And then he's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And, of course, at the time it was, he brought the set-top boxes, and we had 3 set-top boxes dropped in the house. They were all DVRs, and one for my office, one for our bedroom, and one for the living room. And he brings this one really awesome high-capacity one and 2 of the shitty ones. I'm like, dude, what gives? Like, good one? Crappy ones. He's like, yeah, the really good ones are in really high demand, and yeah, we're told 1 per household. I'm like, dude, plywood. He's like, yeah. Let me see what I can do. One of my buddies is down the street. Let me see if I can meet him for lunch and see if he's got any extra on the truck. Yeah, they got 2 on the truck.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
awesome.
yes, we got another really good high capacity DVRs.
So I'll delve into a little bit about how my home is set up today to get around that problem.
Yeah.
So I did under your suggestion, the Ethernet handoff for your home connection, which you can request.
Yes.
They will come out. They will give you an Ethernet handoff.
Yep, it's all built into the ONT. They just need to enable it on the on the.
So I did that, and I did PFSense at home. And then what I did is I got rid of all my set-top boxes. Got rid of everything. I went and bought a Silicon Dust HD Home Run. I took one coax connection. I only needed one to go into my HD Home Run device. That HD Home Run device, you then put a cable card in. So I rent one cable card for $2 a month from Verizon. That lets you get all the channel. I don't know where if it gets its channel information from online or from Verizon. It's able to get my channel listing information.
I bet it does via the cable card. I bet it does something like the Mocha service. Yeah.
So it does all that. So I don't need my modem from Verizon.
Yep.
I have I built my PFSense firewall. I got my HD Home Run, one coax connection, one cable card. That will send out 3 streams over the network that you can capture with anything that runs Android or Kodi or Android or Kodi, right? So basically any kind of Linux or Android-based device. And then I have LibreElec. I have actually HD Home Run also installs on a Fire TV, Amazon Fire TV stick.
Nice.
Or any kind of Amazon Fire TV device.
Yep.
That application reads one of the streams from the HD Home Run. So anywhere you've got a TV with any kind of device plugged in that talks to the HD Home Run, I can get all of my channels. I get basic cable from Verizon, very basic package, and I can watch all the sports. I can watch TV on 3 devices at the same time. I could, if I wanted to, build a DVR based off of that.
On all 3 streams, conceivably.
Yeah, well, your DVR can occupy one stream, basically be recording one stream or 3 streams.
Right, because
if your DVR's got all 3 streams, you can't watch live TV. You got 3.
Who watches live TV?
Yeah, you've got 3 streams to play with, basically, on your network, so you don't need to run any coax or Ethernet or anything. You can do it totally over wireless. The HD Home Run apps have gotten better. So I've got an NVIDIA Shield, an Odroid C2 with LibreElec on it, and the 2 Fire TVs, all with the apps on them. So, I mean, your limit is 3, right, to watch live TV.
Unless you were to buy a second HD Home Run with a second cable card.
Correct. And then you could have 6
streams.
Then you could have 6 streams, right? You can also buy an HD Home Run with an antenna. If you want to cut the cable completely, you could go completely over the air. And that's how I run at home. And the latest version of LibreElec is awesome, much less problems on my Odroid C2. The NVIDIA Shield is, oh my God, it's so wonderful. It is $300. It's more than what it costs to build an Odroid C2, but it's much more user-friendly.
But you plug it in and it works.
Plug it in, it works. You can play games on it. My kids can play games from NVIDIA. It comes with 2 remotes. I can get all the apps that you can install on Android. So you hook it to your Google account. Anything I buy on Google now can play over there. And the other nice part about the NVIDIA Shield, which I didn't tell you, is from your Android phone. If you have Sonos, Sonos is separate, but if you have Google Play Music, you just select NVIDIA Shield as your audio destination, and you play music through your TV wherever it is. It's pretty cool.
So we need to put together a shopping list and have you come over some weekend in the very near future.
So that's been the Cutting the Cord podcast for this week. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. that's how I do it at home.
But speaking of cutting the cord, Paul, tell us about domain tools.
Yeah. Whether you're phishing or hacking or spying, threat actors use domains and IP addresses to launch their attacks. And while you might not be interested in targeted attacks yet, targeted attacks are interested in you. Your ability to map and characterize the attacker's infrastructure is crucial to defending yourself. Join Domain Tools senior security researcher Kyle Wilhoit and Director of Product Management, Tim Helming, who is on the show this week, on a virtual ride along Domain Tools Iris. They use real-world cases to show you how you can quickly and efficiently expose the adversary's infrastructure. Join the webinar at domaintools.com/securityweekly. Learn how to protect yourself against various crime, espionage, hacktivism by seeing how investigators and threat hunters work in the trenches. Again, visit domaintools.com/securityweekly.
Boom.
Thank you for reminding me to read that advertisement. Now let's get into the
stories
after
of the
we
week.
Geeked out about like home networking and entertainment
But
stuff.
still, great network design. Some great possibilities for doing secure network design at home.
Yeah, and check out OPNsense. I think was
Yeah.
the big takeaway from that. We're using it to great success so far here in the studio.
Yep.
So, how to hire an information security professional? Anyone want to take this one? How would you guys hire an information security professional?
That's a really damn good question. From our perspective, is that at InGuardians, it was one of those. Our claim to fame was that we never hired junior pen testers. It was always senior folks. Unfortunately, in this sort of day and age, many of the senior folks that we want to hire are tied up. They're really happy as to where they are. They don't want to make the change to the quote the dark side, or they've been to the dark side. They don't want to do that anymore. But what we've been finding that there are folks that some might consider junior that have very much a senior mentality.
Yeah.
They are well seasoned. They've been in the trenches. They know their stuff, and they are very much able to talk the talk and walk the walk as a senior folks. And very much there's an opportunity to take a junior person and put them in a senior position and have them excel.
You know, I'm kind of reminded of a time when you were searching for a job. You'd put your resume on monster.com.
Yes.
And that was actually like a good thing. Like
Yeah.
you'd actually get results from that.
Yep.
Largely, I think that's gone away. And I think what this article points out in Security Today is that the people who are on job boards looking for a job may have a degree or some training or certifications, but don't have any real world experience.
Yeah.
So recruiting for these positions on like paying money to LinkedIn or whatever job board you're on, I don't think is the right way to do it. I think we've really matured in that you need to explore different avenues to be able to do that. And there are actually several positions open here at Security Weekly, which you'll be hearing about more in the upcoming. We're actually going to do an internship program.
Nice.
Paid internship, basically on Doug White's recommendation. I think Doug really kind of got me around to doing that again, specifically for developers to do that. And it's kind of interesting that you do, in going back to security, you do find that people who have a degree with some certifications will go on job boards, and that may not be the person that you're looking for. As you stated, Larry, you're looking for someone with experience.
In the trenches experience.
But I think we still have that problem. I'm going to let Doug chime in because I know he's very close to this issue, is how you get experience without having experience.
Well, and I completely agree. And there's certainly people that have experience that's not easily documented. So there's a lot of people, especially in the security field, who've been working on these things for years at home. They're building things like you're building a firewall there at work, but it's not as clear on their resume how to document those items. The reason I'm such a big advocate of internships is for the simple reason that it's definitely a seller's market in employing people these days. And I've consulted with a lot of companies who are trying to hire people. And when we do that, one of the things we find out when we go on the job boards, we get a deluge of resumes. A lot of the people have fancy sounding resumes. When you actually meet them in person, they're not so great. Some of them don't fit in culturally in the environment where you're working. And the problem these days with employing people is you do get into legal jams, you get into all kinds of issues if you try to get rid of those people. Mm-hmm. And what I learned from large companies like HP or some of these other companies that I've dealt with was that they had that same problem. And what they were doing was they were putting people in internship roles that allowed those people to have minor roles. They got to be tested out from many, many different perspectives, from cultural, from just environmental to skill sets. And if it didn't work out, then it's no harm, no foul. If it did work out, then they've got a person who's now been there 90 days or 160 days or whatever kind of time frame you're working with, and they can make a really good assessment of that person as a potential employee rather than trying to make an assessment. I mean, I used to interview programmers a long time ago, and we were going to university campuses, sitting down with somebody for 15 minutes and trying to make a determination, will this person be a good fit? Will they be a good programmer? And we're trying to do all that from a quick test that I put together, because I used to just hand them a piece of code in Fortran and say, tell me where the errors are. And if they just immediately went, I don't know what this is, that was the end of the interview. But the problem was that still didn't tell me they were going to be a good programmer or not, even if they picked all the errors out or they were going to fit into the environment. Having them on board for a little while really did help us to say, this person is a great programmer, but they're a psychopath.
So you found a great person to hire then?
Oh, no, we kept that guy until he shot up a bar. But he was good. And we tried to keep him after he shot up the bar, but the police wanted it really bad. But we'd also get a person who's a great programmer who just completely didn't fit into the environment. I had a guy once, and he was he had a great skill set on paper, and we brought him on board, got him in the shop, and, this guy's like trying to clock out at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, wait a minute now, that's not how that works around here. And he's like, well, I've got a wife, I've got 2 small children. I go home at 5 o'clock. I can't work here till midnight. And I was like, you're a programmer? But having people on as interns, you get a really good feel for how they're going to behave, how they're going to function. And you can also do one thing, which I remember telling Paul very specifically. You can imprint them with your Pauldom, because you want that person to learn your way of doing it.
The problem is the imprint of Pauldom usually is a chip of a mushroom tape, right? Mushroom tip right on the forehead.
But I want an employee who's going to learn to do this development or this network or this firewalling or whatever they're doing my way. I don't want somebody who's going to come in and say, this is how I've had these people. This is how we used to do it at HP. And I don't want you to do it the way you did at HP. That way is stupid. My way is the way you want to do it. And again, with interns, I'm bringing those people on board. Now, if you're trying to take a person, put them out in the field like Larry is, and they got to take charge of a big project on day one, that's not a job for an intern.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you've got an intern that's been there for a year, they got a lot of experience, and it's like 1 year is really a lot more than that, because they learned Larry's way of doing it, and they're going to go out in the field doing it Larry's way. And that means that 1 year suddenly expands to a lot more practical experience, because 3 hours with Larry is probably worth 3 months with me. So, I like the idea, and I think it really gets you an employee that's going to help you. Plus, it helps you to attract and hire. Today in the marketplace, I get calls from companies all the time saying, could you send 5, 6 people over here? We got 12 unfilled positions. And I'm like, I don't have anybody. Whereas when they've got interns, they go, we're going to hire these 2 right now. And the people are already been there. They learned your way. And they say, I like working for Paul, or I like working for Larry, or I don't like working for Doug. And they can say, yeah, I'm going to stay on board. I like it here. I'm comfortable here, and I've learned the way they operate. I'm
Doug,
not going to call.
You reminded me of a story that when I was learning the program as essentially an intern when I was still in college, and there was a senior developer helping me with some code and having me put like all these print and debug statements in my code. And I vividly remember, and that lesson stuck with me, right? The manager of development coming over and being somewhat irate. I'm not even going to say somewhat irate. Like, he was irate. He's like, you need to be using the application debugger. Now, I mean, this was like basic on IBM 4690, right? Like some esoteric thing. It doesn't even matter. The manager of development came over and said, you need to be using the application debugger. Stop what you're doing and switch to that. And we're kind of like all taken back. And we're like, okay, we'll go do it that way. We stopped what we're doing, and we did it that way. And you know what? That was the right lesson to learn. And although somewhat harsh, sometimes in software engineering, like some lessons are somewhat harsh like that.
Yep.
But it's for your benefit. And to speak to what Doug is saying, it's in the vision of whoever is leading the team, right? The leader of the team didn't want the developer spending time just adding print statements and debug statements all over the place. One of them using the application debugger.
Yeah, use the right tool. Use the right tool for the right job.
But it totally goes back to Tiger Woods' golf swing, right?
Yeah.
At some point in his career, Tiger Woods had to change his golf swing. He knew that his golf scores were going to go down for a certain period of time, but as he changed his swing, on the upside of that,
he was going to go
higher than he was before, and that's exactly the lesson. And I think one of the reasons why I'm really on board with the internship is hopefully in the past, since I've been 7 doing some kind of programming, I can imprint some good skills on that person. And however long they stay with us, wherever they go next, they will also have those skills.
So I want to hear from Jack.
I do want to hear from Jack on this issue about taking interns and learning.
He looks bored over there.
He looks bored over there. Jack, what do you think about interns learning how to develop software, and who is the right person to come work for Security Weekly?
God, I don't know.
Jack, does Suffering Bastard have anything to say on this?
He has nothing to say. He's just looking forward to visiting the Maikai next week and then Vegas the week after. But
get off my lawn.
The challenge. So, I don't know.
You love the grumbling. I could listen to the grumbling for another couple of minutes, Jack. By the way,
you guys have covered it well. I think that. Doug talked about it. Finding people that fit in the organization is sometimes more important than the skill sets. Because if you hate the people you work with, that's just it's not healthy for anyone. And you start losing people, and you can't afford to lose people now. But internships are great at Tenable. We've had some folks that have rolled through that have learned a lot, and some of them have stayed with us, some of them have not. But it's been good for them and good for us. In other places, it depends on how you treat those interns. Doug, you can probably, but you have to actually treat them like employees. You have to have a little bit more patience, but you also have to, expect them to perform and have not a completely different set of rules for interns. They have to be employees with, an asterisk, not snowflakes. Otherwise, they don't get a real world experience, and you don't give them a proper test to see if they're actually going to work in your environment. And that's not just, developers. That's, in support. That's, wherever you bring people in. And mentioning support, that's one of the things that I think all of us have in our background is, having done some level of support. And if you survive that and come out, you end up with skills of, things like, as a support engineer, you tell customers no a lot. The way you say no is more important sometimes than actually saying yes or no. And those are skills that you either learn in support and then you get out of it, or you probably aren't going to be great at dealing with people. So, like Larry, if they're going to work with you, if they're going to be at InGuardians or at Black Hills or something and facing the public, having done their time in the support mines is something that is probably going to be
great advice,
a real asset.
And that said, I want to also, speaking to my intern specifically, spending time directly in the support mines.
You get out of something what you put into it, Larry. And I feel like in your leadership role, in some upcoming announcements, but I've made organizational changes so that I can spend more time with interns to properly mold and shape. Because I feel like in an internship program, you get out of something what you put into it, right? That's what my grandfather always said. And you have to kind of restructure so that you have the proper time to give to your interns to mold them and shape them.
We think about, the intern structure is he's technically the company's intern, but he reports to me. And based on time, every day we talk.
Yep.
We have a call scheduled every day at
Scrum.
At
we do a Scrum.
Scrum every day, 10:30 a.m., the intern and I. We also have one of the other founders of the company, myself, and the intern with a 30-minute mentoring call once a week. Like, hey, tell me what you're working on and what some of the challenges you think you've got, and we can give them some ideas about ways to think about some of approaching those problems from our industry experience and our work experience and so forth. Now, that said, my intern is totally awesome. We treat him like an employee.
Your intern sounds way smarter than we are.
Well, he is. But he's 19 years old. He's got the new car smell. He's right out of college. He right out of high school. He decided not to go to college as of yet. I don't know if he will. Quite honestly, I would be surprised if he does.
That's okay, though. I always give the Mike Kershaw story.
And
I don't know if Mike has gone back and gone it, but Mike is one of the most brilliant engineers that I know. And you can attest to that as well, especially when it comes to wireless.
Yeah, lots of things.
And security, lots of things, right? And I'm like, dude, hey, Mike didn't go to college. So that is like the most shining example.
Yep. There's so many folks that haven't gone to college. And quite honestly, the only reason that I think I ended up getting any benefit out of college was the personal experiences that I gained, whether or not I'm still friends with any of those people. But the fact about dealing with people, growing as a human, as well as getting some of the understanding about some of the business acumen that went behind all of that. Like, I'm not a programmer. I'm not a computer guy. I'm not a security guy. I'm a business guy underneath all of this. And we think about how all of this stuff that we do as computer security professionals impacts the business or doesn't impact the business, and some of the cost justifications and risk. And there's so much more to it.
That comes with time, though. That's something that's why you're mentoring the intern to drive home some of those points specifically.
And absolutely, he's treated like a real employee. Like, we expect you to be here from 10 to 6 type of thing, and but we make some asterisks, not the snowflake. We make some asterisks. He texts me at 5 a.m. He's like, dude, I'm just going to bed. I spent all night working on this project because I really got in the zone. I'm like, dude, we'll see you at 2 o'clock. Like, we get it. We get that developers and some of these folks in the industry necessarily need to have a little wiggle room and flexibility. And certainly, even at the intern level, but still, you have to still have the ability to know that there's some structure. The fact that he communicated to me that said, hey, dude, I'm going to be late tomorrow.
Right.
Because I did this and I was working. Step one.
Yeah. But that goes back to both Jack and Doug kind of mentioned that is, looking for interns for someone like InGuardians, for someone like Security Weekly, very different from large insurance or financial company.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, totally different.
Yeah.
And finding that right cultural fit is one of the challenges. And Doug is really bringing that home for me. Like, you need to find the right person to work for a podcast company, for a pen test company, where the hours are weird. There's no dress code. There's no none of that traditional structure.
And I want to touch back on a little bit about that Jack mentioned about that support role. I didn't consider non-traditional support roles. Like, if they have a really active GitHub page and they have projects that folks are using, they're going to receive issues. Yeah. And they're going to be in that support role, and you can observe how they interact with the community that has submitted either feature requests or bugs, and how they dealt with those issues by politely saying no, or by saying, oh yeah, that's a really cool idea, it's going to take me this time, and how they do that.
The important point is to look back on that and make sure they didn't act like a dick.
Yes.
I mean, Fyodor,
but consider those non-traditional support roles.
Yeah, but Fyodor, H.G. Moore, Mike Kershaw, all
don't be a dick.
Well, you all have that same message, right? Yeah. Like, dude, don't do that. Yeah.
So the point about the GitHub, one of the things that I always tell people, not just for internships, is show your work, right? I mean, whether it's your GitHub or whether it's nobody blogs anymore, whether it's blogging or podcasting or a YouTube channel or GitHub or whatever you've done, or even if you've got your own vanity site for your resume, make sure that if you've given a couple of talks that you link out to YouTube or Iron Geek or Source of Knowledge or wherever those things are. Make it easy for me to find out that you've actually done stuff. And then it's a lot easier. And just as we were talking, I realized one of the things we talked about, to Doug's point about, a couple of minutes isn't enough. A friend of mine, I've got to be kind of cautious how many details I share, had an intern who has left them now. And I think they had a going away party after the intern left because they were glad to be rid of him, because he was the most the most polite, professional, well-dressed, nicest guy, and just useless. But in the in the initial interaction, you're like, this guy's awesome. Why were they grumbling? And you're like, oh, right.
Right, and and I also want to take that the same way, Jack, and a little bit of converse that while the interns are learning from you, you may in fact be also learning a whole lot from the interns, especially where there's some generational gap. I mean, I hate to say it, but Galen, my intern, or the intern, and I are presenting at DEF CON Labs, and the tool is named that we're going to be releasing is Vapor Trail, and it's really sexy and is quite innovative and that type of stuff. But there's a reason it's called Vapor Trail.
Because it's vaporware?
No, it exists. It exists. I can point you to a GitHub repository that's private right now, but after DEF CON, we're going to release all of it to the community so that you guys can use it.
Can't wait to see your private.
But my
GitHub.
my private
Your
repository.
yes.
Yeah, I've seen your private repository. It's
it's never mind.
It's milfy.
We've seen each other.
It's milfy. But very much, you learn stuff, and you learn, and their input can also help mold corporate culture.
When is Galen going to come on the show?
Let's
do your DEF CON talk, and then
let's have Galen and I come on.
This was our conversation before the show. We want to interview people after Black Hat and DEF CON to talk about what they talked about at Black Hat and DEF CON. Not before, because you're not going to want to give away what you're talking about.
You can count us immediately afterwards, and Galen will blow your mind.
I want to throw something on what Jack was saying too, just for the viewers really, and for potential interns or employees out there. What Jack was talking about is called portfolio, and this is a field where you need to figure out a way, and everybody was talking about it, to make sure that you can display your talent. I mean, that's what the idea of certification is, but it doesn't really work because it's just really how good are you at taking tests. So the idea that you can collect your things, whether it's code or it's tools you've built, because all too often we see really good people that are out there working, they're developing tools, they're putting them on GitHub, they're putting them out there for free, and then they just kind of get lost in the noise. So you need to be sure and keep your tools and your portfolio together so that when you do get a chance to talk to Larry or you get a chance to talk to whomever you're talking to, you get a chance to really show them how and what you can do, regardless of what your credentials say. You can say, look at all these things I built. And that is going to be the thing that will save you, especially if you're not going to pursue college credentials, certifications, and things like that can actually sort of document how good you are.
Yep.
You need to have that portfolio.
Yep. And speaking of that portfolio, to talk Galen up just a little bit more for when he comes on the show, dude wasn't allowed to have a cell phone in college or in high school because they just didn't allow them in the building. But he fell in love with this game called 2048. Have you played it?
Mm-mm.
You move these tiles around. You add 2 and 2, and they make 4. You add 4 and 4, and they make 8, 16. It's very much that type of thing. But they weren't allowed to have their mobile devices at school. So, but he was, because he was in the advanced math program, he was allowed to have his TI-85 calculator, or the newest version of the TI-85 variant, which you could install your own apps on.
Mm-hmm.
So he learned TI-85 assembly to write a 2048 clone for his calculator.
Good Lord.
Because he was allowed to have his calculator at school, but he couldn't have his phone, and he wanted to play 2048. So he wrote it for the calculator.
I would have also given him points if he said I took my phone and disguised it as the calculator.
Yeah.
I would have given him points for that as well.
Yep.
Or just said, hey, I brought my phone into school and I snuck it around and I used social engineering to be able to use my phone.
Yep. But no, he wrote the app for his calculator because he wanted to play this on his calculator.
On an unrelated note, I poo-poo schools for not allowing those devices like that. My son's 9 and I really kind of want to get him a phone.
My daughter's 9 and she has her iPad, but she's not allowed to bring it to school.
Yeah. But no phone yet, right? Like, at what point do you go
well, so she can do FaceTime and she can do iMessage.
Yeah, but they don't have the iPad.
Right.
My only hesitation is I'm afraid he's going to lose it. That's really it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want him to have the technology.
Yep. No.
Well, just from experience with my daughter's 17 now. With her, she's had a phone a long time. she wasn't allowed to take it to a lot of situations that I actually wanted her to have a phone, because I was like, what if you really did have a bad situation and you need to call 911, or you want to take a video of yourself getting accosted? I think that's a pretty handy thing to have. I made that argument. I lost. But I do think the kids having phones is good for one big reason. And people constantly told me, oh, you don't want her to have a phone. You don't want her to have a phone because it's just going to – I'm like, you're going to have to learn to function in the world as it is. You cannot live in the world as it was. And she's going to have to learn to pace that into her model. But the big risk with the phone, one, losing it. So when you lose an $800 iPhone, that kind of sucks. But worse than that is breaking it. I don't know what they do to the phones, but it gets broken a lot. Sometimes I think it's just a sign. It's like a symbol. Like I can't like none of her friends have phones that don't have broken faces on them.
One word.
When they get to the okay,
OtterBox.
OtterBox.
Both of our kids have iPhone.
I'm gonna give it to you. Good luck with that. Go tell your kid they gotta have an OtterBox. They go, oh my God, Dad, I'm gonna look like the biggest dork.
Yep.
Nobody has their phone in an OtterBox. My phone's in an OtterBox. I've never broken it.
Exactly.
I dropped off a motorcycle at 40 miles an hour, and it was bouncing down the highway. I went back and got it. It was fine. But
I rest my case. I've seen my 4-year-old whip her iPad across the room.
OtterBox.
Yeah. And an OtterBox.
I have a Pixel. It's a very expensive phone. It's in an OtterBox.
I'm going to buy you this. You're getting an OtterBox whether you like it or not. You got two options. You got two options. This with an OtterBox or nothing.
But that could be the difference between 10-year-old girl and 13-year-old girl.
Don't care.
Right, Doug?
Don't care. You're not buying it with your own money?
Larry's tough, Dad, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm like socially irresponsible Dad, so I wasn't like that. But we've survived. I will tell you, I do believe my phone and OtterBox could pass through the digestive tract of a lot of animals and come out just fine. I smell a little funny, but you'll be good to go.
I have plowed my not like that. I have snow plowed my phone in an OtterBox twice and run over it with my truck twice. And the only way I could find it was going in and grabbing the house phone and calling my OtterBox and find it ringing in the snowbank. Yeah. Twice. It's not a scratch on it.
This episode brought to you by OtterBox.
Please send us free stuff because awesome. But, I will refuse to have a phone without an OtterBox.
This is my Pixel in an OtterBox. It's totally fine.
And this is my iPhone in an OtterBox. Yeah.
I wish I had a baseball bat here. If I had a baseball bat, I'd
totally in fact, even better. This is my phone in an OtterBox. Dude, it bounced.
This segment sponsored by OtterBox.
Oh, it's totally fine.
Yeah,
totally fine.
Dude, I've literally seen our 4-year-old whip her iPad across the room and it was fine. I'm like, Daddy, it's a Frisbee. Wing!
Are we going to talk about any security news in this security?
Fuck no.
I love that we... All right, we should talk about this before we go.
Let's go.
Because we have to go soon. This, a retail website...
oh, my God.
strawberrynet.com. Don't go there. Or do. But Troy Hunt did this whole thing. Basically, Strawberry Net...
I love Troy.
What does Strawberry Net do, by the way? Does anyone...
I have no idea.
I'm going to have to go to the Strawberry... So basically, they said... You don't need a password. You just need your email address, and you can check out. So basically, you create an account. There's no password.
They sell makeup.
Oh, is that what it is?
Looks like it.
Oh, yeah. It looks like nice makeup, too. I mean...
Fresh beauty, as they call it.
Yeah. Cologne,
they
perfume.
sell beauty supplies of some variety.
Yeah. Men's Essential Clean Skin Scrub.
You could use some of that.
4.2 ounces for $18. No, I'm set. I'm all set with that.
You could rub it on your wiener for $18. Yeah,
dude, not even. So yeah, they sell makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
but basically, no. What was the? There was a real like.
Wow! All I did was enter a very common female name to @gmail.com and whammo! There's all her data.
But the thing was, he told them about it. And they basically said, no, our customers like it this way. And the other thing is...
What? I took a brief look at their HTML source in an attempt to better understand their thinking. He wrote, what Hunt found...
because they obfuscated, so if you
No. What Hunt found was inside the HTML were the clear text values of the obfuscated fields.
Yeah,
gets worse.
so they Troy Hunt kind of called them out, and they said, okay, we'll obfuscate the data. It's fine if you have someone's email address, you can't see their, and it wasn't credit card information. It was like your name, email, address, phone number.
Well, yeah. If you select the change billing address, the next screen showed all the personal information.
Yeah, but that was
of the customer.
totally easily bypassable by like not even hacking. It's just like view source in your browser.
Yeah, well, that's hacking. Like,
apparently,
I'd argue that's hacking. If your app sucks, that's hacking.
Well, that it has all the symptoms of. I was looking at it right here. It has all the symptoms of being a foreign, like patent infringement type site, because it's basically offering you all these different currencies you can pay in. It's offering all these things, and then I pulled it up already. There's multiple lawsuits against them for selling. They take the bottle that says Paul Mitchell on it and they fill it with something else, and they sell it for $25 for an ounce.
They fill it with Powell Mitchell.
Oh wait, so is that what they mean by a Strawberry Net is recommending users opt for a password to secure their data, and they say, and I quote, moving forward, we will close this loophole in order to avoid data exposure for our express checkout customers. As a forward-thinking company, is that what they mean by forward-thinking? Is they're basically filling it with Jergens rather than in $18 for 4.2 ounce men's?
Because I know you buy
lotion.
the Jergens.
Well, it looks like...
I was just seeing how long the awkward silence kept going.
That got awkward.
Awkward! It looks like a company that has a lot of, like, really... I mean, there's all kinds of posts about, is it real, is it fake? Which I presume that basically what they're doing is this sort of rebranding of things where they sell products that may or may not be real. So it's like when you go out on the street in Manhattan and you buy one of those DKNY purses, something I do a lot, and then you go home with it and go, I don't think this is a real DKNY purse because it only costs $3. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, speaking of all of this fun stuff, Paul, tell us about Cisco Automation needing manual patches.
So under the covers, it looks like Cisco Automation was really just running like Apache with some modules. And it just begs the question, like, large software companies such as Cisco, when they implement things and they call it Cisco Automation, and really under the covers, it's running a bunch of open source components.
Like Tomcat in this case.
But like, why aren't they using something like a Black Duck or I can't remember the other company that basically lets you search your entire software repository and says, here are 18 vulnerabilities that are in your code that are known vulnerabilities in open source software that you've just repackaged inside of your software. To me, it's just like defining low-hanging fruit moment.
Right, and well, my thing is, think about what is that going to cost them to do?
They charge...
Think about what the licensing model for
when you
that
put
is.
it in perspective of Cisco and how much money they make and what they charge per application, some per application charge. If you're a big company like Cisco, you could conceivably go to some of these smaller companies that offer this service, negotiate a deal, say, hey, you can call us out on your website as using your service. Yeah. These companies provide a great, I think it's a fantastic, like it's kind of like a, no duh, kind of like
what is
kind
it?
of thing.
Yeah, my thing is,
just buy the company.
Or you could, like, if you're Cisco, right?
Thanks, Jack.
Great point, Jack. Go buy the company.
Yeah, what does it cost Cisco to do something like that? Like, negligible.
Yeah.
And for the end result to not have a story like this, for them to lose, like...
To have yourself...
No, that's it. No, that's it. The brand reputation against Cisco for something like this is probably going to be also negligible. But brand reputation,
but
loss of $500,000 in sales and the cost of $100,000 that it cost them to do it.
Watch how these behemoth-sized companies operate. They've got one division that's worried about branding. They've got one division that's worried about product development. And they go out and they buy another company who built a product that they want to embed in another product from a second company they bought. They take those things, meld them together into a horrible chimera, and then that solves a problem that marketing came up with or sales came up with or engineering came up with. Take all that, bolt it onto something else, and then meanwhile the branding people are back there going, we have to protect the brand, but they don't even know what that division is doing.
Oh, right. So you've used Cisco ICE before.
Ooh.
Oh, damn. Did I say that out loud?
Bad man.
Was that my podcast voice coming out on the outside? Damn it. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm getting all curmudgeonly like Jack. He's taught me well.
It's all right. Just rounding out the news, researchers have cracked 1024-bit RSA encryption on GnuPG crypto libraries.
So what was that all about, Paul?
Basically, GPG.
Yep.
They were able to crack it. That's really all I know at this point. I just kind of briefly skimmed the article.
Right.
They demonstrate complete break of RSA 1024 implemented in libcrypt for that. So that
now my question is, what's the risk? And is it a problem of the implementation of RSA 1024 and libcrypt, or is it a problem with RSA 1024?
No idea.
I think based on the quick skim that I did, it looks like it's an implementation of libcrypt. Because libcrypt update on Debian and Ubuntu have already fixed the issue.
Gotcha.
So I'm thinking it's a libcrypt implementation issue as opposed to an actual issue with RSA 1024.
Apparently, there will be a presentation at Black Hat about this next story, which is Broadpwn. It's a remotely exploitable flaw in Broadcom chipsets affecting both Android and Apple OS devices. Nitay Artenstein, a researcher with Exodus Intelligence, discovered the vulnerability CVE 2017-3544, and will be giving a presentation at Black Hat about that. And Google just patched that vulnerability. I don't know if...
Was this related to the
Apple-
Broadcom vulnerability that we talked about, the really deep dive?
I remember we did cover a You're absolutely right, Larry.
It's a libcrypt vulnerability that's in the libcrypt system where it leaks information. So it's a side channel type attack.
Is this the broad?
No, we moved on, I think.
We moved on from that.
Paul wasn't clear on that.
Yeah,
Paul wasn't clear on that.
This is the next story, which is the basically researcher bypass mitigations such as DEP and ASLR to gain access to Broadcom's BCM43XX Wi-Fi chipset. Remotely exploitable flaw. We'll get more information after Black Hat on that one.
I suspect it's probably similarly related to the research that we talked about, some Broadcom stuff before, all with Wi-Fi.
I agree.
Wait, sorry, Paul, which story of yours was that? Just to... that's number 3.
Story number 3.
Yep, critical Broadpwn.
Researchers build a firewall to detect SS7 attacks.
Yep. When I saw this, I'm like, SS7. This sounds like an industrial protocol to me, but it's related to two-factor authentication.
Yeah. The SS7 vulnerabilities can allow cybercriminals to hijack two-factor authentication codes texted to mobile phones, read and redirect text messages. One of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan using your cell phone and SMS for two-factor authentications. One of the reasons why I use a YubiKey.
Yep.
And the open source SS7 firewall technology will debut at Black Hat.
Now that said,
month.
using your cell phone is better than no two-factor at all.
Better than none, but I'm still a big proponent of YubiKey or similar technologies.
That said, that's very, very much some of the stuff that I'm dealing with is what happens when you lose your YubiKey. For example, my mom is in a rehab facility, a medical rehab facility right now, and she has some stuff that she wants to make sure it's secure, and they give her a lockable end table with a key with a little bracelet around it. And she's like, I don't want to wear this damn bracelet around. Where do I put the key? And
On top of the end table?
Well, yeah, you put it on top of the end table, or she has a place that she's like, see my jeans hanging up in the closet? Put it in my pocket. I'm like, Mom, it's hanging upside down. It's going to fall out. Like, you're going to lose... You're going to use your factor of authentication at some point, and how do you recover from that? So that's some other things to think about in some of those implementations.
Absolutely.
Is what happens when you lose your YubiKey. And is it cost effective for a common person to have multiple YubiKeys?
Depends on which one you get. There's ones that are $17 and ones that are $30. The other thing is I was thinking about this, if someone steals, so I was actually coming to work and I've got multiple carabiners on my bag, right?
Yep.
We're all
the same bag.
We're all in on the Maxpedition stuff, right? So I got a carabiner, and I'm like, I'll just attach my two-factor authentications right to my carabiner. I'm like, what What if someone steals it? I'm like, but they would need to know what, like me, like they would need to associate that with me, and how do they do that kind of thing?
Yep.
And then also I'm going to recognize that it's
Gone.
missing, and I can go in and just pluck that out.
Yep.
And if I have multiple, I can be like, oh, I lost that one, so that's fine, de-auth it.
Yep.
I still have one that I can authenticate with.
Yep.
But if you only have one and you lose it, you still got to order another one, get that new one in. So that is interesting.
Yep.
Anyway,
I think we need to hear from Jack on something in here.
Chip and pin, is that like two-factor?
Chip and pin? What?
Jack, any of the stories in there that grab you by the jumblies that we haven't already discussed?
I got carried away closing windows.
Oh,
I don't know. No.
Jack, you'll be in Vegas, right?
Yes, I will be in Vegas.
Good.
I'll be in Vegas for 2 full weeks this year.
Oh, I'm sorry you'll be there for 2 full weeks, but they're also happy at the same time, and I'm excited to see you and get a hug.
Absolutely.
We've talked offline about some of the things that are going on, and
Hugs.
It'll be good to see a beard.
Yeah,
we're all gonna hug and sit on each other's laps.
Yes.
For those listeners that'll be out there in Las Vegas this year, come find us.
Yeah.
Let's hang out.
Speaking of which, I totally forgot to mention. Totally honored to have someone ask me to do this, but Mr. J. Beal is teaching a workshop at DEF CON. Linux Lockdown, 2 to 4 hour workshop at DEF CON, and he's asked me to co-teach it with him. App Armor and SE Linux.
I want to take that.
I think it might be sold out already, but I'm not sure. That's why I'm mentioning it. But there might be a wait list and folks don't show up, so it's gonna be totally awesome because Jay from this standpoint is a total mentor for me, and he's asking me to co-teach with him, and it's like, whoa, holy shit! I got to step up my game, and probably one of the most difficult
at
points
the top
of
my short list to learn how to lock down Linux. Jay Beal is right there in my short list.
Yes,
if not number one.
Sign up for his class at Black Hat rather.
Well, Jay did what was his Bastille was his project.
He's and he lost. And remember when he lost the domain name?
The domain. Speaking of domains,
Bastille Linux, and he lost it, and it went to Bastille-Linux, and we covered that on the show eons ago. Yeah.
Oh my God, Jay is like the expert on
Linux lockdown.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And he teaches a course at Black Hat every year. He's doing a workshop at DEF CON from some of that content, and I'm co-teaching with him on that. So it'll be fun.
Oh, I want to sit in on that.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Go sign up.
I want to do that. That would be awesome.
Go sign up.
Largely because I'm responsible for the Linux lockdown of all of our Linux systems that we have here and in the cloud and online. So
totally awesome. And awesome. And definitely Jay's been talking about some of this stuff, and so he's been integrated. We talked about his 2 blog posts about the Mr. Robot virtual machine for attacking that, and how you can use App Armor and SD Linux to start protecting against some of the attacks that you do against that. That actually makes an appearance in the course, and then some.
Awesome.
So they're very, very awesome stuff.
Well, thank you, everyone. Jack and Doug on the lines via Skype. Larry here in the studio. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Larry, take us out.
What? Oh. 2 and 2? Yeah. Over and out.